All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations unto the Akim out here pushing his gospel and truth and his sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord, wind and fall upon your houses. This is the brother Quanah Watts from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson, good spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. Amen. It's almost here, man. You know, Jeremiah 30 and verse 7, right? Jacob's trouble, right? Also called in Revelation, the 3rd chapter, the hour of temptation. It's almost here, right? Starting with our elder apostles on down, right? Elder bishops, elders, Akim, right? We've been warning you for years that this time is coming, you know? And as we read in Habakkuk, matter of fact, we'll grab that. We'll start off there, right? This is Habakkuk, chapter 2. And then start at verse 1. It says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me, what I shall answer when I am reproved. That's right, man. You know, we're to watch, right? We're to watch and to pay attention, you know, and to ultimately, as it says in 2 Esdras 9 and 1, right, measured out the time diligently in itself. And the Lord set up prophets, right, to do just that, right? We're watching these, you know, these conferences, right? We're watching these, moves, right, that Esau Edom is making, right? Signing these executive orders, you know, cracking down, using the military, It's looking at these different events that are happening all across the world, right? Not just here in America, but all across the world, right? And filtering them through the scriptures. And again, giving you the understanding of the times that we are in. And we are in the time, right, of the fulfillment of Jacob's trouble, right? Jeremiah 30 and verse 7, right? It says, verse 2, it says, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables that he may run that readeth it. That's right, right? Making it simple and easy for you to understand. Now, the prophets were set up, right, in these times, right, to watch, for these different, signs, right, and prophecies, right, and give you the proper understanding, man, making it easy to be understood, And guess what, man? It's easily understood now, right, more than ever, that we're in the end of the end, right? We're in the time of Jacob's trouble. We're in the time of Revelations 13, verse 16 on down, man. Or 14 on down. Revelations 13, right, and 14 on down. All this is taking place, man. Right before our eyes, right? Verse 3, it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, man. And it's speaking loud and clear, man. Loud and clear. And I'm going to get into this article, that ultimately shows you, how close we are, man. Right? It says, and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry, right, man? And it's here, right? Jacob's trouble is around the corner, man. Esau's getting ready, right, to come in like a flood, right? As this is on the Newsbreak app, right? It says ICE cuts training time, adds combat gear as thousands of new agents flood in, right? And we already know that Trump was saying that he was going to flood these sanctuary cities with ICE agents, man. And now he's bringing in the National Guard, right, and allowing them, right, to ultimately work with local police, really federalizing and militarizing the local police, right? So what do you think he's gonna do with these ICE agents, man? He's gonna militarize them, man, giving them all different types of, it says right here, combat gear. What do they need combat gear for, man? If they're just coming in and apprehending, illegals, right? Which they've been doing, right? They were already apprehending illegals, man. Right? Now you're going to give them combat gear, right? Esau's preparing to come in like a flood, man, and to wipe out, right, a lot of you Israelites, man. Because that's who their main focus is on, man. You Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And we've been saying this time and time again, man. all those nations that came across the borders, right? When Biden was, was president, right? When he opened those borders, all those different nations, right? Videos upon thousands and thousands and thousands of videos that went out by all these different nations that came across the border. Why is he focusing on just the Israelites? Right? Well, let's go to Revelations 12, and I'm going to get into that article. Revelations 12 and verse 17, right? It says, "In the dragon," which is talking about Esau, Edom, right? "And the dragon was wroth with the woman." That woman is being, you Israelites, man, right? It says, "And went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach." Yes, right? Esau is focused on you Israelites, man, right? You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is why y'all have been the forefront, of, him saying, all the crime, right? That's happening, right? Who is he talking about? He's talking about you Israelites, man, right? Mainly the southern tribes, right? The so-called blacks, right? That's who he's saying, right? Is doing all this crime, right? Committing all this crime, and that's who he's trying to get rid of, man, right? And we understand it's not just, right, just Israel as a whole, right? We understand, his main focus, right, is those who are preaching this truth, right? Those who are ultimately bringing out and revealing who this damn devil is, man. This is why he's speeding everything up, because all this information is coming out, which is prophecy, 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3. That the man of sin, the son of perdition, be revealed, and he's being revealed at an all-time high. So he's speeding things up, man. Let's go back to this article. It says U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is expanding its workforce at an unprecedented rate, right? He's speeding up, right? Revelations 12 and 12, because he know we had but a short time, right? It says cutting training time and issuing combat gear to new recruits as the agency prepares for a surge in deportation operations, according to a new report. So they're preparing, right? They're already preparing. They're preparing to move in on you Israelites, man, right? It says the expansion follows the congressional approval of $76.5 billion in new funding for ICE, nearly 10 times its annual budget, right? Because again, Esau is preparing, to make war with the remnant, right, of Israel, as we read, right, make war with Israel, right? It says, with about $30 billion set aside for staffing, the agency plans to hire 10,000 additional deportation officers by the end of the year, more than doubling the current force of 6,500. ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons told the AP that the agency has already received 121,000, right? 121,000, many from former officers, to accelerate the process, right? ICE has shortened its training program, as AP learned through a visit to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Georgia, right? Caleb Vitello, who oversees training for new agents, said Spanish language requirements, for example, have been reduced to cut 5 weeks from the course, right? Recruits will now do more training at their assigned field offices. We're seeing and we're having to adapt to all different scenarios that we were never trained for in the past, Lyons said, citing violent confrontations during recent arrests, right? So they're preparing for, ultimately an uprising, man, right? They're preparing for, the fight back, man. And this is why they're getting that combat gear, man, right? Second Ezra 16 chapter, man, is finna play out in a very a high rate, right, where Esau coming in like a flood, not giving a fuck, right, and killing people, man, just downing them. It says the agency is now also issuing helmets and gas masks to new officers and deploying security teams to accompany agents. We're not going to allow people to throw rocks anymore, Lyons said, explaining that specialized backup will now be standard. ICE has also increased its reliance on special response teams, deportation officers with SWAT-style training, currently numbering about 450 nationwide, right? So they're really getting they're really getting into it, man. Right? It says, as for practices that are still being put into practice, recruits continue to receive instruction on immigration law, the Fourth Amendment, and limits on administrative warrants, which they're not even, they're just saying that, right? Because at the end of the day, when they really have to come in, and martial law, because this is, ultimately, a soft martial law, if you will, with the military coming in and being used and militarizing police forces and local police and whatnot, right? That's a soft martial law, right? They haven't necessarily fully announced it, but there's going to come a time where they're going to fully announce it, and all of those rights and amendments and whatnot get thrown out the window, right? They already, suspended habeas corpus, right? As well as the different rights that are ultimately established, right, based off of that. I keep mentioning one called the Brady rights, which you can look those up. They're getting rid of, your ability to fight your detention, right? You being detained and whatnot, you being arrested, right? They got rid of the ability of you being able to fight that, man. What do you think is going to happen during, when they officially announce martial law? It's going to be all hell break loose, right? It says Vitello emphasized that if officers are denied permission to enter a home, you have to leave. At the same time, ICE maintains it has authority to make arrests in vehicles, a practice that has drawn criticism from immigrant advocates, right? So they're saying, what if you don't give them permission to enter into your home, hey, guess what? You finna be kicked out. Again, that's 2nd Esdras 16th chapter, right there, right? And we're gonna hit it. It says, when it comes to recruiting, the agency has removed age limits for applicants, introducing student loan repayment programs, and rehired retired officers through Operation Return to Mission, which offers signing bonuses and a waiver allowing continued pension benefits, man. So they're making it to where they are, and who's not gonna want that? Right? Who's not gonna want student loan forgiveness, man? Especially at a time where they canceled the student loan forgiveness. Right? A lot of these people are drowning in debt right now, man. So people are gonna be signing up quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? With a $50,000 signing bonus. And then they're offering all these different things, pension benefits. Come on now, man. And extremely good pay. People are going to be rushing, like as you're seeing, 121,000 applicants, man, already. And that number is going to continue to rise, man, and a lot of them are Edomites, man. A lot of them, or majority of them, are Edomites, right? You might have a couple, Jakes in there, right? But majority are going to be Edomites, man. They want people who are good, right, at shooting, right? Retired officers. A lot of these officers, man, right, are or were part of, some kind of white supremacy group, right? The Aryan Brotherhood, Brother Speed, you got the KKK, right? And that shit's been open. There was a KKK rally, right? In Pennsylvania a little while ago, man. Right? I think it was like downtown or some courthouse or some shit like that, man. But these Edomites are being emboldened, man. Because again, they're talking about what? Make America great again. Really, it's make America white again, man. And I think that's what they were chanting, right? Make America white again. So hey, you Israelites, man, y'all got something, man. Hey, Esau about to come down having great wrath, man. Well, let's hit this, in the 2nd Esdras 16th chapter. Start at verse 68. It says, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, right? Esau's waiting, man. This is why you have them signing up. They're like, oh, I gotta kill niggas. Hell yeah, sign me up. And I get good pay, and I get student loan forgiveness, and I get a continued pension, and come on, man. They got rid of all these different rights that, that would ultimately, make it to where you can combat or protest your detention. They got rid of all that shit, man. They're already killing, they're already seeing bodies that are washing up ashore, right, on different countries and whatnot, man. Right, of these, northern tribe that's being apprehended, and thrown into these isolation facilities, right? They're taking them and basically just throwing them out the back of these fucking cargo airplanes, killing them, man. Because that's what they want. They want to get rid of you Israelites, man. Right? That's the whole point, right? It says, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you being idle with things offered unto idols, right? Which that ultimate is going to be what? The C hit, man. The RFID micro C hit, man. You know, that's what they ultimately want to get you on, right? This is why they're already scanning, you know, the retinas, the eyes of these, immigrants and whatnot, you know, scanning their eyes, putting bracelets on them, you know. Hey, the next step is going to be, hey, you want to stay in America, you got to take this C hit, right? Because we already know that Esau Edom, you know, ultimately does, you know, what is it? Problem, reaction, solution, right? Esau created the problem by coming at, you know, the immigrants, right? And apprehending them openly, even at the courts, right? Creating a fear, right, of being apprehended, and then turn around and say, hey, nobody's coming to their court dates. Well, now we got to start slapping them with these fucking devices, you know, which is, you know, a step in the direction of forcing, right, the people to take the charagma, man. Hey, you want to stay in America, you got to take this, this C hit, man, you know, and eventually it's not just going to be the migrants, it's going to be everybody, man, you know, as we read in Revelation, the 13th chapter, right, he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive an MARK in the right hand or in their foreheads, man, right? Right, that you're not going to be able to participate in society, right, verse 17, right, save he that had the MARK, the number of the beast, the name, number of his name, you know, roughly paraphrasing, man. So you're not, this is where everything's heading, man, you know. Verse 69, it says, they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. He's still going to kill a lot of you Israelites, man. You know, even if you do take that charagma, he's still going to kill you, right? Because he has an agenda, right? He wants a world population at 500 million or less, you know, and you Israelites are not part of that agenda, you know, right? Verse 7, he says, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. So again, he's coming for you Israelites, but his main target are those who are preaching against his system, man. Preaching and teaching against his system, right? Which are the prophets, the true prophets, Yahweh Hashem Shai, you know? But he is going to come, right, for all Israel, right? Verse 71, it says, they shall be like madmen, sparing none. They're not going to care, right? This is why they're getting that combat gear. What do you need the combat gear for, right? This is not, you know, a different country and where you need to wage war. But see, we understand, right, that we're in a time of war, and Esau Edom is about to make war, right, as we read in Revelations 12 and 17, right, make war with you Israelites, man. This is what he's gearing up for, man, literally, right? It says they shall be like madmen, sparing none. So they're going to be downing people, man, not giving a shit, right? They're just lowering the requirements on who gets in here, right, just so they can get bodies in, right, so that way they can come and control the crime, which is really, you know, control you Israelites, you know. And if you don't want to, as I said, if you don't want to leave your home and you got to get out, they're going to be kicking you out, which is the next verse, right? It says, but spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, it says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses, man. We just read it, right? And this is how, when you read in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, right, it's speaking. Right, for the vision is yet from the point of time, but the end it shall speak. This is speaking right now, man. Right, because it's lining up with exactly with how prophecy says it's going to play out, man. Right, with what they're talking about and what they're setting up to do. That's literally according to prophecy, man. You know, it says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they should be tried as gold in the fire. Because, you know, again, a lot of you Israelites are going to be, you know, put to death, man. You know. A lot of you Israelites can be put to death. You read in Psalm the 91st chapter, it says 1,000 at thy side and 10,000 at thy right side, right? Roughly paraphrasing. That's how much your bodies are going to be just laying on the ground, man. Esau just going to, you know, kill them and leave them, you know, if you will, right? Because what happens in war, right, is a whole shit ton of casualties, man. And, you know, they're not going back, right, and burying the bodies. No, they're not, man. Whoever they kill, they moving on. And those bodies are staying there. And you see that all throughout these different movies and TV shows and whatnot about war. They just kill and move on, man. You know, and they might have, like in the medieval time, they might have people come and looting the dead bodies and whatnot, man. You know, which are part of the spoils of war, but nonetheless, right, they're leaving them bodies there, man. So we're gonna have bodies on the streets, right? And it's gonna be a lot of you Israelites, man. You know, which is ultimately judgment from Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, pursuing to Psalms 17 and verse 13, right? The sword of the Lord is the wicked, right? And the Lord is going to use that sword to take out a lot of you Israelites, man, because y'all want to continue to be wicked. Y'all want to continue to follow in the ways of the heathen, right? So a lot of you Israelites are going to be judged in this time, man. You know, because of your wickedness, because of your evil. You know, but the elect, right? Those who truly trust and believe in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua in these times and are presenting their bodies a living sacrifice in these times, they're the ones that are going to be protected, man. Right? This is why it says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, right? Because the Lord's only dealing with the elect. He hath care for the elect, right? Wisdom of Solomon in the 3rd chapter, right? It says, they shall be tried as gold in the fire. That's right. You know? And when you put gold in fire, right, and you try it and you test it, right, it comes out better, right, on the other side. You know? And this is how the elect are going to be, man. You know? And the Lord are going to make sure that they're preserved, right? This is Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 19. It says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood. And again, we're reading about it, right? That they're preparing to come in like a flood, right? They're getting a flood of applicants, right? Trump was talking about flooding these cities, right, with ICE agents, you know. So that word flood, right, is being incorporated, a lot lately, man, right? Because that's what they're preparing to do. They're preparing to come in like a flood, right? It says when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. And I want to grab that in the blue letter, right? Because I want to grab that word. Yeah, my KJV, yeah, kind of. Just wanted to make sure I had the KJV on. I'll be looking at the NLT sometimes. But this is Isaiah 59 and verse 19, right? Lift up a standard, right? A standard against him, right?
Strong's H 5127.
Standard.
Noose.
Right, noose, right? It says to flee, escape. Right, the Lord is going to allow the elect to escape that situation, right? Via miracles, right? Because this is what it's talking about, a miracle being done for those that truly believe. And Elder Yashawamba, right? The elder, the head elder of the, GMS Dallas camp, right? Beautiful elder, man, through the Spirit, man. He made he coined the phrase, faith provokes miracles, man. Right? And the elect are going to have that faith. Therefore, miracles are going to be done for them. Right? So when Esau comes in like a flood, those who truly trust and believe in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, there's going to be miracles done for them, man. The Lord's going to protect them. The Lord is going to guide them. Right? What did he say? He said, that guide of them that keep the commandments. And we're going to read that. We're going to go back, and finish this lesson, right, with 2nd Ezra 16 chapter 73 on down, right? It says what? It says to take flight, right? Disappear, right? Depart, right? And the Lord could, endow, right, some of us with spiritual power, or is going to endow some of us with spiritual power, man. Not could, but is, so that way we, are able to escape these situations, man. Which is going to be beautiful, man. And we can't wait for that, man. And some of us might, get the spiritual power of, strength or speed or flight, right? And be able to fight back against our enemies, man. It says to drive at, to take flight, right? It says to fly to the attack on horseback, man. We don't know exactly, right, how that's going to play out, man. But we understand that there are going to be miracles done, right, for the elect in the times to come, man. Right? And we know that men are going to get spiritual power in these times, right? And we understand that Esau is going to come in, but the Lord is going to sustain the elect, right? It's just to put to fight, to drive hastily, to cause it to disappear, to hide, So I want to go back And we'll close out with that second Ezra, the 16th chapter. You know, verse 72. Verse 74, right? It says, "Hear, O ye my beloved," right? And when you go into the name David or Dawadah, right? In the Hebrews, Dawadah, right? It means beloved, man. Right? So this is speaking to the elect, but Bayat Dawadah, the house of David, right? That are waxing stronger and stronger in these times through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? It says, "Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand." And we're looking right down the barrel of Jacob's trouble as of right now, man. Right? It says, "But I will deliver you from the same." Right? So the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai is going to make sure that the elect, right, are delivered from these perils that are coming. Right? As we read in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, right, verse 7 and 8. Right? Those that are going to be saved are going to be the ones that are preserved from the perils that are coming. Right? It says, verse 75, "Be ye not afraid, neither doubt." Right? We can't doubt. Right? You start to, ultimately think about some doubt, or the Lord's not going to deliver me, or why would the Lord deliver me? That's a demon, man. Hey, you need to fast and pray that demon away, man. Get it gone, man. Because that's not the mindset that you need to have, right, coming into these times. You need to have pure confidence in Yahweh Shem El Shai, man. And that comes by you doing, right, the will of Yahweh Shem El Shai to the best of your ability, man. Right? It says, "Cast not away therefore thy confidence, which hath great recompense of reward," man. So you got to stay confident. You got to stay faithful to Yahweh Shem El Shai, right? Because that doubt spirit is ultimately what? A lack of faith, right? So first and foremost, right, fast, pray, right? Pray that Yahweh Shem El Shai give you more faith. It's the disciples asked for it, man, right? They prayed for more faith. So how much more us in these times, right? As we're approaching, one of the deadliest time, right, in all history. It says, "Be not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide," right? He's going to guide. He's going to protect us. It says, "In the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord power, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshai, let not your sins weigh you down, let not your iniquities lift up themselves," man. So we got to be rooted and grounded, right, in the fear and faith of Yahweh and Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshai. At all times to the best of our ability, man, especially as we see these times fastly approaching, hey, stay rooted and grounded, stay in the spirit as much as possible, man. Well, that's all I got, man. And ultimately, we just want to speak on that, man, through the spirit. Lord will is edifying, Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, that belongs to the elder apostles, the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.